So, your company is Empirical Consulting Solutions. Tell me, what do you do?
We started as a business process company, and what my partners who started the company realized was that they had a lot of components of growth that were in need of their clients, not just business process, but they needed to drive business. And they needed a partner that could come in and bring the marketing and the sales component to the overall business as a whole. So we focus on that lower mid-market typically, a lot in private equity, about 60-70% of it's private equity, the rest is privately held. And we provide them, again, with business process work. We've still stayed in that realm. We do a little talent acquisition, but my swim lane is the sales and marketing component. So everything from building a brand to driving that revenue and handling even on the sales side. I've got people in all of that.
Welcome to the Turbo Branding Show, where we help you ignite your growth by leveraging your brand to grow faster, easier, and more successfully. I'm your host, Sue Kirchner, and today I'm welcoming Bill Morrow to the show. So let's dive into today's episode and turbocharge your brand. So first, thank you so much for being here, Bill. I'm really excited to have you on to talk to you about the importance of building a strong digital brand and how that drives revenue.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here. Glad to be speaking to you. I love your podcast, so I think this is cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, all right. So we're going to try something a little bit different. Bill, you are the perfect person to talk about this topic about building a brand online. But instead of reading your bio so everybody gets to know you, I want to have some fun with a few rapid fire or maybe not so rapid fire questions to help you share your story and get us to get to know you a little bit better. So let's dive right into that. So first,
Right.
What are you an expert in? What's your superpower?
Why? That's a great question. And my joke always is I'm about 4 miles wide and about 4 inches deep. I know a lot about a little or a little about a lot. I always get that wrong.
Okay.
But I have a lot of knowledge, and I attribute that to my experience over the many years in sales and marketing. I've spent a lot of time in that world. And then I know enough I think my big superpower is I know how to recognize talent and then bring it into our fold, because I've got a team that is absolutely amazing. I'm blown away every day by the work they do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So your company is Empirical Consulting Solutions. Tell me, what do you do?
We are a broad-based consulting firm, and it started back 11, 12 years ago now. I can't believe we're saying that. I just saw my anniversary come up as 9. I was shocked. When you see a number like that, you're like, wow, it's been that long.
Yeah.
But we started as a business process company. And what my partners who started the company realized was that they had a lot of components of growth that were in need of their clients, not just business process, but they needed to drive business. And they needed a partner that could come in and bring the marketing and the sales component to the overall business as a whole. So we focus on that lower mid-market typically, a lot in private equity, about 60-70% of it's private equity, the rest is privately held. And we provide them, again, with business process work. We've still stayed in that realm. We do a little talent acquisition, but my swim lane is the sales and marketing component. So everything from building a brand to driving that revenue and handling even on the sales side. I've got people in all of that.
Okay, awesome. And how is that unique from any other firm out there?
We're unique because of the ability we have not only to build the strategy. A lot of people love to talk strategy. We do too. But a lot of people talk strategy, but they don't want to execute because the execution part is hard. Mm-hmm. You and I were just chatting before we started about executing. It's hard. But that's where we really earn our stripes, and we stick it and stay, and we'll adjust a plan and we'll make it work. So as we've gotten into some bigger companies, we've been knocking out bigger and bigger consulting firms that just don't do that piece. They don't have the experience. They don't know how to execute. And there's some big name consulting firms that we enjoy beating on a regular basis because of that. So
I love that. I love that. Excellent. So you've talked about, the lower middle market, but who is your ideal client? Where's the one where they come to you and say, this is our challenge, and your eyes light up like, oh my gosh, we can help you?
Yeah, we love the companies and we've really built a niche in this, that have started, have sold to private equity or have taken on some funding of some sort. And they've run a fantastic business for the last 20, 30 years. However, a lot of that sales motion, marketing motion revolves around the founder, and they want to take it to the next level. I don't want to professionalize is the wrong word, but it's get it to the next level and broaden out the base so they don't have to rely on one person to drive all the revenues in the business and to tell the story and the brand. So we come in, help them figure out what's going on. This is our brand, this is who we are. They often can articulate it internally, but they have a hard time externally. So we help build that and then go out to the marketplace. And it's just really rewarding because we've seen success story after success story where somebody has taken the time, the energy, and the money to do that, and they see fantastic returns. I'm sure you see the same thing, Sue, with the work you do.
Absolutely. And we're going to dig into those stories, hopefully, as we go on here today. All right.
Yeah.
What about your job gets you up in the morning?
Man, you rapid fire and some good questions. I love when a client tells us, I'm thrilled with the work you guys are doing. We could not have ever done this without you, and you're making an impact on my business. We all, probably my whole team, we could all go somewhere, work for somebody, make more money, but that's what drives us. That's our why. We love being able to make an impact in all those people's lives. I've got 3 or 4 stories where we've had clients come to us. They were about to go out of business. We've made an impact on what they're doing, both on the front end and the back end. And they've turned their business around and now they're thriving. And their families have security. All their employees have security. That's what drives us. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I mean, that's why I love working with smaller businesses and entrepreneurs because it's like it's taking the courage to take on the risk of that, of being able to employ other people is amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And not everybody can handle that responsibility or the pressure that comes with that. So my tip of the hat to you for that and everybody else who does that. So, okay, another couple questions for you, and then we'll dig into the meat of branding online. But who was your first client at Empirical, and what did you learn from that
Our first client, well, we have my partners have one first client and I have one. I'll talk
Okay.
about my first client at Empirical. We got engaged with a client that needed some support, but didn't know what that was like. Similar story that I had talked about. They had just recently been purchased by a private equity firm. They needed some additional support. They wanted to be able to grow their marketing. I actually hired an agency that was supposed to be an expert in the field. We see that a lot. This person or this agency is an expert, and they were pumping out their playbook. Just wasn't moving the needle, and they were slow to respond, and it wasn't going very well. As we got engaged, we learned about what needed to get done at what time and how to improve their business as a whole. It was a learning experience for us, and it was a great experience for them. That was almost 9 years ago. They've now increased the size of that business by 500% and are continuing to grow. So it was fascinating.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great success story. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Best business book you've ever read?
Probably, and this goes into business, but it probably doesn't. That's a great question. And I read books all the time, but I would say Adam Grant's Give and Take. I love that book. And I love Bob Berg's The Go-Giver. I think both of those are kind of who I am and how I've built my business. I spent a lot of time networking and trying to support my network and making sure I'm giving and as much as I can and making connections where I can. So both those books lead a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
I like that. Excellent. I haven't read either one of those. I'm going to go check those out. So,
Yeah.
all right. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that because, I want people to get to know you as well as your expertise and your journey. So now let's dig into a couple questions I have about how do you drive revenue for your clients through marketing and branding engagements, right? So the first question I have is, do you have a branding aha moment where you were like, okay, I get it. I see the value in investing time in building a strong brand?
Yeah, back to my days at Regis, we were building a brand and doing a pretty good job. We were growing really rapidly, and we thought we sold office space. Regis is an office
Yeah.
space provider, across the world. Probably the largest.
Right.
And
Before all the co-working spaces cropped up, Regis was
yeah,
it, right?
yeah, that was it. Yeah, we were co-working before co-working was a thing.
Yeah.
And we thought we were selling office space. And we would take pictures of empty offices and put them out there. And I remember one campaign we decided, okay, the reason we're not getting more traction with this campaign is we don't have a good enough photographer running around taking perfect pictures of everything. So we send this photographer out, which cost us a fortune. I don't remember, $500,000 to go all over the place. This photographer probably to this day thanks us for this job. Ran around, took pictures of empty offices with no thought to branding behind it. It was just, hey, we've got offices, come use our offices. We
Right.
thought that was brilliant. They were pretty pictures. Sometimes we had some pretty things behind the pictures,
Yeah.
and no thought to really what we were saying or what we were selling. And it flopped. I'm sure you're shocked, Sue, that if empty
Shocked.
offices
Yes,
flop.
exactly. We all
And
have to learn this though, right?
yeah, it's like, hey, we took a step back and we really asked ourselves, what are we selling? We said, we're selling the experience. We're selling, the camaraderie, the co-working, the everything that's here. And that's where like a lot of that co-working ate our lunch early on, was they got to that quicker than we did.
Yeah.
And we then put people in pictures and change some of the verbiage to, how you can grow your business in our environment. And we blew up. And it was, to me at that point, I was like, oh, this is not about the thing or the item, and it's about adding the brand and the emotion and having people feel where they can go and where they can be with the service you're selling. And that was yeah, we spent about a third of what we did the first time and got 300% better return. So,
No, that's excellent. So, yeah, I mean, the same thing. I see that all the time. It's like, yeah, stop telling me what you do, right? I mean, that's lovely. We all need to understand what you do, but what sells or what gets people to actually want to, have a relationship with you is, well, what value do you deliver? What pain do I have? Or what need or aspiration do I have that you're going to be able to either eliminate or empower me to do something. So, and yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, why do you need an office?
yeah.
It's not about just needing an office. It's the why do I need an office? I want to grow my business. I don't want to be alone all the time. I want to be able to collaborate. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's spot on. It's digging in and understanding that why and then selling to that. I mean, you don't have to go crazy because you always, like you said, you have to tell them, what you're about. But at the
Right.
same time, you've got to connect. You've got to make that connection to them at a higher level. And you'll see, and we do that, and we've done that in manufacturing and industrials. And people always like, oh, that doesn't work here. That doesn't work here. They know what we do. And we're like, hey, give us a shot. Let's show you what we can do. And it 100% of the time, it makes an impact because now people are connecting to the brand and the company in a way they never have.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit more about online. So if an organization wants to be found these days, or more importantly, considered at all, they need to have a strong digital presence. To you, what does that mean? What does a strong digital presence look like?
Yeah, I mean, a strong digital presence starts with your website. So you have to have a place that's your number one asset. It's your number one digital asset. And I'd argue it's probably your number one brand asset in general. It doesn't matter who you talk to or where you're at in the world. People will go to your website to either vet you out or learn more about your company. And that number that, Gartner or whoever keeps putting out, McKinsey, that talks about 80% or 90%, that number seems to keep going up every year of the
The,
buying decisions made before they talk to the client.
exactly.
So you have to have a strong place and tell a story in a manner that is concise and impactful. And if you don't do that with your website, especially with that front page, you're just missing a whole opportunity for your business. And I'm going to argue you're probably going to be putting yourself out of business if you're not investing in that asset strongly.
Right, right. But is a website enough? And that's a question that I hear from a lot of people too, is, yeah, I've got this website, but that's just one point of presence online, right?
Correct. Correct. We find our best customers, and again, I don't care where the industry is. We've been in and out of maybe 30 industries now. You got to have a wide range of ways of reaching out digitally to your audience. You got to know where they're at. We highly, highly, highly recommend, and I think Sue and you and I have talked about this. You talk to your customers. And if you haven't talked to your customers in a long time, talk to them. And I'm not just
Yeah.
saying, hey, how's Susie? How's the kids? What's going on? Talk to them, have a list of questions. And I'd even argue the next step, hire somebody else to do those interviews because sometimes you have such a deep relationship. Some folks don't want to tell you bad stuff or they don't want
Right.
to give you honest reactions. They want to give you what you want to hear. So we often will come in and the first thing we do when we're coming in and looking at a new company or new brand is we talk to customers. We talk to customers, we talk to internal stakeholders, and we pull all that together and we decide, hey, this is our message. So that's step one. And
Right.
then that goes into the website. And to answer your question, then it's asking those customers, where do you get your information? Where do you work? And they'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, Google Ads were the thing 5 years ago, and they're still important to most customers. However, we're not investing in Google Ads in that part of our digital footprint as much as we were 4 or 5 years ago, even a year ago. We're spending more time now in social media places with industry experts, influencers. We spend, I would say, 40% of our dollars that we have on budget for our customers for digital outreach has shifted from Google Ads into social media and other places. It's just we're getting way better responses, and that came directly from voice of customer that we did with those customers in those places. They said we don't digest stuff like this anymore. This is where we go.
Right. No, that's fascinating. And I totally appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, the Google ads, with the way that search is changing and things like that, it's so much more important to go meet people where they're at online. And the biggest thing is to find out, like you just said, ask the customer, where are they? You know?
Yeah,
So I've had clients come up to me and they're like, oh, do I need to be on X? Do I need to be on TikTok? Do I need to be here? And I'll just fire right back. Well, where's your customer? Because if they're not on TikTok, why spend all this time, energy, and effort into trying to build a brand there? Because really, you just, in that case, you're shouting into the wind or you're shouting to people who will never care about hearing your
never did.
message. So
No.
that's important there, right? So, and yeah, I kind of view it too as like when you talk about a strong digital brand presence, there's the platforms you need to be on, but then also for me, from a branding point of view, it's the objective, right? Or it's what you're able to accomplish on each of these platforms. So to have a strong digital presence, I kind of view it too as it's getting found by the right people. And that gets back to the voice of the customer and where are they?
Yeah.
It's telling them how quickly you can solve their problems or uniquely solve their problems so that they say, oh my gosh, I see that, you can do exactly what I'm looking for when I need help. And then making it easy for them to take action. That's another big thing digitally,
Oh
which I'm
yeah.
sure you can talk for hours on is, yeah, you've got all this great information, but what have you asked them to do? How are you taking them further into the journey? And then the part that I find my clients seem to sometimes forget is the after sale part, which is how do you keep staying engaged with them even after
Wow.
they purchased something,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Spot on. Yeah. Great points. Sue. I mean, that is spot on.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about, that your sweet spot is, lower middle market companies. And you talked about some of the branding challenges that they've articulated to you of why they're coming to you looking for help. But how do you differentiate yourself in a crowded marketplace, right? Because we've talked about this too, even about the podcast and blog posts and all this. Is like, does the internet need more information? No. But does it need more relevant information? Absolutely. So
Right.
how do you do that?
Differentiation, especially in the consulting space, is really, really difficult. And because there's a lot of people out there making a lot of noise. And our favorite way to do it is, to your point earlier, you make a very clear and concise message. We listen to our customers and make a concise message back that, hey, we can solve these problems. But more importantly, we find our customers do a better job of telling our clients what we do. So we use testimonials all the time. We use case studies all the time because there we can tell a story then that relates to our customer base a little bit better. They can see, oh, I see what they did. I can see how they're different. I understand the words they're saying here, but anyone could say those things. But now they're showing it to me and they're proving it to me via this customer who gave a great testimonial. And at the same time, they're showing me the methodology. We share the secret sauce. There's no surprise when we walk through the door. I'm happy to share the secret sauce with everyone. And we do that with our testimonials and case studies.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, are there different tactics You talked a little bit about Google Ads, you talked about influencers, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that in a second. But are there different tactics for building your brand online based on either different phases or stages of your business, or is it more just about the buyer journey? And like you said, that 80% before they actually decide to pick up the phone and call you, what are they doing during that 80%?
And great questions too. Your first question, I would say that, yeah, we do change it up. If you've had no presence on social media and you're trying to, or digital, and you're trying to get going, we're very careful about introducing yourself out to the marketplace and to your audience and trying to get some impact immediately. So that might be video with the CEO, that might be, special offers. We don't do that a whole lot, but more or less we're going out with something unique and something that's going to be a grabber to start building that audience. And then to your point, it's understanding the buyer journey and knowing what pain they have when they have it and trying to meet them where they're at. And so we're consistent with that and we're showing, hey, we're doing this in the marketplace and at the same time, we can solve your problems. So you have to, it's a bit of a balancing game. In
Yeah,
social media, especially, you can't go too far like into a sales mode all the time trying to solve problems. So we
right.
spend a lot of time building the brand externally with people and things and showing. So we do a lot of that. We mix a lot of that in just to show that the humanity side of the business. But yeah,
Hmm.
the 80% of the time they want to know about you. It's not a secret, right? If you think about your own journey as you learn new businesses and companies, they want to know, to your point, can you solve my problems? How do you do that? What's your process like? And again, this is where customers that haven't been in the space, we see you struggle with this often. They want to hide some of their process. They want to hide how it is, which makes it difficult for a customer to
Right,
understand how they're going to solve those problems and what that's going to look like. And they're
right,
always worried that a competitor is going to come and steal their secret sauce. And I'm like, if your competitor is worth their salt, they already know what you do and how you
right.
do it. You're not telling them anything they don't know. Share that and make it easy for your customer to engage you.
Right. Exactly. That's why I love, for me, most of my experience has been in branding service businesses, right? Because I love selling the invisible, right? It's one of those when you're buying a service, there's nothing to poke at, there's nothing to kick the tires on, there's nothing that you can see. You have to rely and trust that the company who's saying they can solve your problem can actually solve your problem. And I love that. But when you're talking about the process, get it out there, get that process out there to show them because the secret sauce ultimately, especially for service businesses, is who are your employees and what skill set do they have?
Oh,
And
yeah.
what's amazing about them because, let a competitor take your process, right? They're never going to implement it or have the same kind of insight and experience that your team does. And that's ultimately how you differentiate, right? Is let me show
Right.
you my people, like you were talking about. It's more than
Right.
just here's your challenge and here's how we're going to solve it. It's more like,
Right.
let me tell you who's going to solve it. Let me
Yeah.
show you, the brain trust that we have here to help you get from point A to point B. So,
Yeah. How
yeah.
do you do that, Sue? How do you do that? How do you show the people? Are
It,
you putting them out like on bios or I'm curious how you do that.
there's a couple different ways. So you obviously can do bios, right?
Mhm.
And I've had clients say, well, I don't want to show my people on my website because then others are going to poach them away. I'm like, they're doing that anyway, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. They know
they know
them.
who works
They're on
where.
LinkedIn.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're on LinkedIn, so they're going to poach them. So by all means, highlight them just, in general, highlight them on your website in the about, us or our team page kind of a thing, so you can showcase their expertise. But if you really want to showcase their expertise, let them go on social media. Let them go on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and talk about certain
Yeah.
topics that they are absolutely experts in and, and say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how I help my clients. And oh, by the way, I work for this company. So you should, if you want to work with me, you've got to, hire them kind of a
Over
thing.
here.
So,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
in general, just like we were talking about building relationships, sometimes you can be a little, you don't have to be goofy or silly, but start to build that relationship online is let your people have a little fun on social media. Talk about, hey, here's how we celebrate in the office. Hey, here's how we give back to the community. And those are things you can share on LinkedIn or, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok kind of a thing. So it's one of those things where it's like, let them, and you've seen this lately where the CEOs are being encouraged to, like you said, have a podcast, have a video that's out there. Let me hear you talk. Let me try and have a relationship, at least online, through the ability to listen to you and hear your ideas. Well, the same thing goes with, if you're a manufacturing firm. One of the things that some of the clients I've had in the past have talked about the fact that, they're always having a challenge getting younger people to come work at manufacturing firms. So I always talk to them about, let's do a video to highlight your veteran, plant manager or someone who operates this kind of machinery and that expertise that's there. And let's put some glamour around the expertise that they have because it is something important and it's part of your culture and your DNA and which obviously feeds the brand. And don't be afraid of showcasing your employees. I know they walk out of the door every night, but if you're running your company well and you're servicing your clients well, they will come back every morning. And that's what differentiates you. So those are some of the ways that I work with my clients about how do you highlight your people, right?
Well, yeah, it's
So,
fantastic.
yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about people, and then I've got a couple more questions for you too. But you mentioned influencers, right?
Mhm.
And how you're shifting some dollars away from Google Ads to let's have some industry influencers talk about you instead, or,
Mhm.
help drive traffic to your site and things like that. How do you find an industry influencer, right?
Yeah, when we first started in this game, that was always the number one issue. So there's a couple of ways. One, there's agencies out there that represent them, and you can search for the agencies, and some of these agencies have thousands of folks they represent, and you can go and choose who you want. And then you get to decide, do I want a micro influencer? Do I want a small influencer? Or do I want a mega? And they'll ask for different things along the way. Some will ask for, if they're really big and they've got millions of followers, they'll ask for, tens of thousands, sometimes $100,000 just to promote a product or what you have. But some of the smaller ones, they just want the product for free. And sometimes a couple $100, but often they just want the product for free and they want to be able to do a demo or run through something with your product. And it's been fantastic. So yeah, to find them either through, you do your own search and they'll pop up, or you go to the agencies. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I agree. I agree. All right. So two more things for you. So the benefit of digital marketing is that you can measure it, right? That was the
Yeah.
big, ooh, you can measure these things. This is so exciting. We need to shift all of our dollars into, online and digital marketing. Now we see that there's other reasons besides just the metrics of where that provides value. But tell me, there's so many KPIs and metrics and things that if you were a lower middle market company, what are the most important metrics that you need to look at to A, drive revenue, and then B, determine if your branding is working?
Fantastic. You got me thinking about 20 things at once, Sue, just with
I'm
that one question.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
and I want to say this out loud. I think the very most important metric you should track as a business owner, and I just had a webinar we ran 6 months ago where I had several CEOs on it, and they all agreed, we hadn't planned this at all. They all said the same thing, is your customer satisfaction number. You've got to know your customers are satisfied, either with an NPS score or some sort of scoring system you come up with, but you've got to have that at the core of your business. And I think that permeates everything that, marketing to operations to customer success, everything that you do in your business has to have that as a component to start with. Then from managing, if I was looking just at digital marketing and knowing what we're at, I'm not a big fan of the MQL, SQL. I think MQLs are good, but let's be honest, I can make anything an MQL. If they come through the door, I can rearrange and mess around a little bit. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of an old school guy. I like to understand, lead flow coming in, just raw lead flow, that qualified lead flow, but just some sort of lead flow coming through the door and how they're converting on the back end. So I like to follow the entire process. I don't like when marketing and sales live in silos and they say, marketing says, hey, I'm doing a great job, or sales says, I'm doing a great job, and we're not working together on the revenue. And you're seeing it less and less. You're seeing them work together. So I like KPIs and numbers that follow the entire sales journey all the way through.
Yeah. That's excellent. And if people don't know, MQL is marketing qualified lead, SQL sales qualified lead, right?
Right.
And I like that you said that. One of the things for me, from branding perspective, what I like to look at, which a lot of times when I deal with clients, it's all about leads, leads. What's the lead gen process? How many people are we attracting? Where are we getting new business kind of thing? And one of the things that I think gets ignored and is a huge KPI for me is what is your loyalty or repeat business percentage? Because, and again, you were talking about quotes earlier about, oh, McKinsey to Gartner and, is the, buyer journey 60 to 80% online now before they call. But the same thing is, I've seen a lot is like 60 to 70% of your business should be coming from repeat business from your existing customer base, right? And from a branding standpoint, if you are getting that, it tells me that they're loyal, right? And loyalty is a huge factor in deciding whether you have a strong brand or not. So if you've got these customers, hold on to them, right? You want to make sure that you can sell to them and you're either going to roll out new products to them. It's cheaper to market to them. They already love you. They're the ones who are talking about you in the marketplace. You want that. But if you find that your repeat business is super low, well, then going back to your point, are you bringing the right customers in? Because really, they're probably just looking for price, right? So if that's the case, you're bringing the wrong leads in, or you're bringing the right leads in, but you're not delighting them along the way. And so
Right.
somewhere or other, your brand, it has a big gap or a fault in it, and that what you say and what you do are not the same. So to me, that's something that, everybody looks at lead gen KPIs and metrics and things like that. But I like to throw out there, it's like, where's the loyalty number? Where's the repeat business number? Because to me, that tells you a lot about the health of your company and the health of your brand.
I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of, I'd say almost 90% of the time, our first goal is to start marketing to the existing market, to the existing base. I've got a newer customer right now, and that's what we're worried about is getting to that existing base. They have a huge, amazing base, and we're trying to market to them and get them to move and stay top of mind. And you will often see return on those because you're already a known entity. And to your point, Sue, if you've done a good job and you've I love the word delighted. I'm going to steal that, Sue. If you've
Okay.
delighted your customers, you will find that that's an easy, and they just may have forgot about you, or you didn't stay top of mind. So yeah, it's a
Right.
great place to start, and very important to the business as a whole.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You've answered this a little bit, but I'm going to throw this out as a rapid fire here. In markets with tighter budgets, what is the most impactful branding strategy that you can or that you would counsel your clients to do that gives the best ROI in terms of building that brand for a small budget?
We're talking blend of sales and marketing, which usually we are in the lower mid market. Usually things don't happen in silos, which is great.
Yeah.
We get to work together. I would say engaging and reaching out to people on LinkedIn is a very cost effective, easy way to market your business. And if you're not there, you're just missing a trick. And again, it doesn't have to be really well thought out. You don't have to have, a content writer write it. Just be genuine, be out there. That's where I'd start,
Yeah.
especially in a small business.
Yeah. No, I like that. I say that a lot to small businesses I've talked to as well as, yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so much money to create content, or so much time to create content and things like that. And I tell them, I'm like, go on LinkedIn and hey, you know what? Leave a comment somewhere. Just leave a comment on someone
Yep.
else's long post that they spent hours trying to finesse and write and things like that. And make it insightful, not just, hey, love what you said, but make it insightful. Share a thought or two, what you think you could add to the conversation. And you would be shocked how many people see that and could respond back or potentially go over and look at your profile and see, oh, yeah, I agree
All
with
the
what they
time.
said.
Yeah, all the
Okay.
time. It's a great way to engage. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it's got to be in my top three in lead gen every year, in new logo lead gen. It just comes, that business comes over because you're building relationships there in line, even with people you've never met face to face.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. This has been
Cool.
excellent. I'd like to close out the show with asking you to nominate a company that's a small company, mid-market company, could even be a client, however you want to do this. Nominate a company that you see is just killing it with their brand, because I like to honor companies that are investing and doing a great job.
Killing their brand. Boy, it doesn't matter, small or mid-size.
Small or mid-size, doesn't matter. Just someone you're like, wow, man, they're doing a great job here.
I would say a buddy of mine, and he's in the software development space, Curotech. They do In a space that's really crowded and really difficult to stand apart, they do a fantastic job at sharing a message that's really clear and impactful, and they've got their why in there. And they combine that with a really strong outreach on social media, and they've built a fantastic company.
Like it. Like it. I'm going to go check them out. So, well, Bill, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your insights. I always love talking with you. But if people want to talk with you a little bit more about helping them drive revenue growth, how can they find you?
We're at thinkempirical.com. So you can find me there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, as we talked about, Bill Morrow at Think Empirical. So
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you again. And thank you
thanks,
for
Sue.
joining us for this episode of the Turbo Branding Show. I hope you've been inspired to ignite your growth by leveraging your brand. And if you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you could help me build a strong brand following for this show by sharing the episode, liking, subscribing, or leaving a review. So thank you and stay tuned for our next episode.